This is Larry Anderson, and that was one of the greatest nights of my life.
I'm John Crook, and I second that emotion. It was the night that the 1993 Phillies won the National League East after rising from the ashes of last place the year before.
We were a team full of misfits and cast-offs that nobody believed in.
Nobody but ourselves. And now, after the passage of time, it's important to look back and see why this team won and how we captured the hearts of an entire city.
And for a few weeks in October, how we captured the attention of the whole country.
You know, Larry, we didn't have the most talent in the league. We just wanted it more than everybody else.
Yeah, Johnny, and we had more fun playing the game than any team I've ever seen before or since. And do you know exactly what I felt like that night?
No, what?
A silly old ant.
Once there was a silly old ant, thought he'd eat a rubber tree plant. Anyone knows an ant can't eat a rubber tree plant, but he has high hopes. He has high hopes. He has high apple pie in the sky hopes. So when you start to feeling low, instead of letting go, just remember that ant. Whoop, there goes another rubber tree. Whoop, there goes another rubber tree. Whoop, there goes another rubber tree plant.
If you're looking for the seeds of the success of the 93 Phillies, I think it began in 1991. We were swept by the Pirates in an early series, and manager Jim Fregosi called a rare team meeting. He really aired us out, pointing out how we played scared and were intimidated by the Pirates. A group of us vowed that would never happen again. The following year, injuries and a weak bullpen sent us to the cellar again. Then a funny thing happened. By September, we realized that Darren Daulton had a shot at an RBI title. Guys started to play harder, moving runners, taking an extra base, anything to give Dutch a shot at knocking in a run. And damn if he didn't do it. Only the fourth catcher in history to win an RBI crown. Not only did it help galvanize the nucleus of the team, but when the smoke cleared, we had scored more runs than any other team in the league except the Pirates, who beat us by 2. Going into spring training of '93, we knew that if we got decent pitching and could stay healthy, we'd be right there.
Safe. He scores.
Spring training. It was my second tour of duty with the Phils, and I was glad to be back.
Welcome back to Philadelphia, and what made you want to come back here?
Oh, you, Wheels, you. Only you. Only you. Yeah, that was my sole reason, because my other chance was to go to Atlanta, and I figured they'd be in a World Series, but it would really cut down on my chances to see you. So here I am.
You really could have signed with the Braves?
Sometimes you have to have a feel for this game, pal, and I wasn't the only newcomer happy to be in camp.
Yeah, we had a bunch of new lunatics to accompany you. Guys like Pete Incaviglia, Danny Jackson, David West.
And back for his second stint, Milt Thompson.
Then, of course, there's Izzy.
Jim Eisenreich was a free agent outfielder who came to camp under a cloak of mystery. It was common knowledge that he had suffered for years with the neurological condition Tourette's syndrome. He had the disease under control, but Izzy was so quiet, nobody knew what to expect until you broke the ice.
Hey, he's sitting at his locker playing with a bow and arrow, looking like he might be after a victim. So I started calling him Jeffrey Dahmer. He loved it.
As you know, my nickname is Jeffrey Dahmer, and I'll do anything I can to help this team win.
He threatened Dutch with a bow and arrow today. He could shoot him in the leg.
Later that spring, his wife told me it was the first time Jim was made to feel so much a part of the team. Anything to oblige, ma'am.
I remember Izzy coming in the clubhouse, and
Jake said, "Hey, you got that Tourette's thing, whatever. You know, if you think you're crazy, wait till you see this crew." And everybody bust out, you know, and started laughing there. And after that, it just kind of snowballed from there. And I've never been around a group of guys that enjoyed being together, on and off the field, as much as that team.
Right off the bat, you could tell there was a camaraderie there, and that hadn't been there.
It was really probably the closest knit group of guys I've ever had the pleasure to manage. They really liked each other. They were, I call them clubhouse rats. They liked baseball. They liked to talk about baseball. They liked to be involved.
We had a lot of fun in the clubhouse. We had a lot of fun off the field. But when it came to playing baseball, man, everybody was on the same page.
Another important event that spring was when Dave Hollins laid down his decree to the Phillies pitchers.
He had set a record the previous year with 19, being hit 19 times as a switch hitter.
He says, but I've been thinking about this, and if I charge the mound, I'm going to be suspended for 4 games. So instead of charging the mound, I'll just charge you in our clubhouse if you don't stick up for me or any of our players.
I said, if you guys don't hit somebody, he said, I'll just fight you after the game. You know, and that's how they went, no, we'll protect you. And 3 weeks later, it just so happened that Greeny was pitching in an exhibition game in St. Pete against the Cardinals, and they hit him.
Tommy Greeny was sweating bullets on the mound there. I didn't know what he was doing, and sure enough, he hit him right in the neck.
I did what I needed to do. I thought like I needed to do. So happened to be the first guy was the pitcher. So it was perfect.
I get hit on an 0-2 pitch that barely brushes me. He hits Donovan Osborne in the neck in St. Petersburg, and we started an all-out brawl. And that just, I mean, we had fights in spring training that year, and it just set the tone. We just got, teams knew we weren't gonna take that.
I knew on the mound that I could throw at anybody I wanted to, and there was no one in the league that was going to get that 60 feet to the mound before he made that 60-foot trek from third base, and that was incredibly comfortable. And it wasn't that he was going to be a roadblock; he'd kill somebody. I mean, I honestly believe that he had the potential to actually slay someone on the field if he wanted to.
That's where the team got closer, and then you start caring about your pitchers too, and the players and everybody. I mean, that pitching staff, that's the closest pitching staff I've ever been around with a team. I mean, we used to hang out with each other and go out and drink together. And a lot of teams, that's a separate gig, I found out later. But now with that group.
It was obvious that there was a whole new tone to this ball club. We were no longer going to be doormats.
It was kind of like we all said to each other, enough's enough. Let's, everybody's picking us to finish last, second last, whatever.
We had all seen the predictions that we were supposed to finish last behind Florida, and they were an expansion team. And if you looked at our roster, I mean, if you just strictly went by what was on paper, they were probably pretty accurate to pick that. And I've been a huge believer in the theory that you can judge the dog in the fight, but you can't judge the fight in the dog. And
it's all about winning and pride, and we're going to go out and beat somebody and beat them bad. I mean, that's what we wanted to do. And it started from day one of spring training and continued on through the season.
One more important event took place that spring. The Phillies stepped up and signed Dutch to a long-term deal. They could have waited to see how the year played out, but the timing was perfect.
Best catcher in baseball will be in a Phillies uniform for 5 or 6 more years, maybe more than that. Dutch says he wants to play till he's 40.
It sent a message that the team was committed to taking care of their own, that performance and leadership would be rewarded.
It made me personally feel like I was the anchor of that club, and that I need to step forward and take on a leadership role. It was time to focus on winning, and boy, what a group of guys to share it with.
And on that note, we headed into one of the most magical seasons in recent history.
Right back at Mulholland. Terry Mulholland has pitched a complete game. Phillies have won their first opener since 1984. What a job.
And a fly ball hit well to left center field, and this ball is out of here.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out to end the ball game.
Thompson, base hit. Morandini scores. Truck is coming around. The ball gets through. Dalton Thompson has a bases clear.
We came out of the chute smoking. First, we swept the Astros, who had spent a lot of money in the offseason and were supposed to be really good.
That gave us the confidence to come back home and take 8 of the first 9 games.
Deep left center. This ball's got a chance. Out of here.
It seemed like every game brought a different hero.
Struck him out to end the ball game. Go to the plate and out at home plate is Randy Milligan. Swing, bouncing ball right back to West. Grabs it, throws him out. This ball game is over. The Fightin' Phils are 8-1, equaling the very best start of a season in franchise history, along with the 1915 Phillies.
Yeah, I remember watching from the video room one long night when you sent us home happy.
To right center field. Bell is back. It's out of here. A home run for the Cluckers. And the Phillies have won in 14-4-3 here at Veterans Stadium just after the hour of midnight.
When we hit the road, the magic continued.
He caught it. Thompson caught the ball. A terrific catch by Bill Thompson.
If we didn't beat you with our bats, we did it with defense.
And true to our motto, we weren't afraid of anybody. How about Mother's Day, when Mariano Duncan faced one of the nastiest closers in the game, Lee Arthur Smith, down by 3 with the game on the line.
It might be. It could be. A grand slam home run. Mariano Duncan. Can you believe it? The Phillies lead 6-5 in the 8th.
I believe from the day that Dunk hit the grand slam off Lee Smith here that we were writing our own script.
We were writing our own script, and it was filled with crazy characters, swashbuckling heroes, lots of suspense, and non-stop action.
Ball in the hole, a base hit. Here comes Thompson. Canseco's throw. He scores. Phillies win.
And a bunch of happy endings. Halfway through the season, we were well out in front of the pack. And we had a style of play and a certain flair that the Philadelphia fans really responded to.
Everybody in America could relate to some guy on that team. And that's the kind of personalities that we have.
Well, there was a freak from every walk of life in that clubhouse. That was the whole thing. We had guys with physical problems, mental problems, and I mean, the list went on. And
every beer drinker and guys that ate a hot dog loved John Kruk. And every woman loved Aaron Dalton. And every blue-collar redneck guy in the world loved Dykstra.
And we had a bunch of gamers there, you know. I mean, everybody was game on in that club, starting with, you know, the manager and our coaches. And, you know, we came out of the gates and everybody started picking everybody up, and it was just like a domino effect, man. We couldn't, you know, once we started, then the fans got in, and it was like we wouldn't take no for an answer.
We played together hard and weren't going to let anybody intimidate us, and we used that to our advantage. And the home field advantage was huge. We used to have a few tough road trips that year, I remember, and we couldn't wait to get home. And nobody wanted to come and play us there that year.
I think everybody else in the league knew what kind of guys were on that team. You know, we weren't just baseball players, we were hard baseball players. I mean, we were guys that physically wanted to beat you, not only in the runs column, but we wanted to beat you physically.
You knew it was going to be a battle, you know, because they were a scrappy bunch, and we always took it very seriously when we came to Philadelphia, because you knew that with the guys that they had out there on the field, it was going to be a war.
We didn't care what anybody thought of us. We just knew we were kicking somebody's ass that night, and we were going to have fun before it happened and after it happened.
Really, that club had a lot of pride. They were tough. They were a group of tough individuals.
25 guys there, and whoever came in, I mean, there was no one could break that circle. So, you know, I mean, hey, if you wasn't a part of that thing, you just wasn't a part of it.
It just seemed like everybody that put on that uniform that year did something great to help us win. And I think that's what makes that team so memorable, is that, you know, there's so many different guys that did so many different things to help us win all the time.
So what were some of the other keys to our success?
Well, like most things in baseball, it starts with pitching. Terry Mulholland had been with the staff the longest. A quiet and calm type, Terry was off to a good start.
Hi, I'm Kurt Schilling, and I play for the Phillies, and I'm the ace on the staff.
Enough about me. What do you think of me?
Breaking ball struck him out. Tommy Green, a 6-hit shutout.
Tommy Green and Kurt Schilling were two younger guys who seemed to be in friendly competition with each other.
Man, a ball, you big country dope.
Both were thriving on it. Big Ben Rivera did a great job as a number 5 starter, winning 13 games.
But the biggest addition to the staff was Danny Jackson, a proven veteran who had already been on 2 world champions and had the perfect mental makeup for this team.
With an emphasis on mental.
He was crazy. He was nuts. He brought a lot of things to this club.
It's like having the WWF come to camp. You know, I mean, Danny was very, very aggressive, very intense individual when he took the field, and you know, he liked to pass that intensity along to his teammates.
DJ's a guy who, you know, would have died for, actually almost died on the bus for this team. Splitting his forehead open, but...
Once on a team bus, our resident nutcase tried to fire everybody up by headbutting the luggage rack.
He has got blood pouring from the top of his head all the way down his shirt, all the way down, and I mean a pool of blood. And so Irish and Mark come back. Mark's our trainer. Mark comes back, and they're butterflying his forehead. He's got a gash, probably about this long, across his forehead, and he's smiling. He's got all this blood in his teeth, and it almost looked like he was happy he did it.
And the head chef of this spicy gumbo was Johnny Padres, the veteran pitching coach whose salty, old-school demeanor combined with a positive, upbeat approach.
He had his way. He had a knack about getting something out of you. It was just a fire in his old-school way of bringing it out.
Pods to us was like Yoda to Luke Skywalker. I believed he could float if he wanted to.
I needed that. You know, it helps pump you up and tell you what you want to hear, really if you suck or not. You're out there on the mound. You got great stuff, and you're giving up the world. You might.
Pods was the father figure the young guys needed.
Oh yeah? How about the old guys? You were the oldest player in the league that year, but you acted like you were in T-ball.
I watched LA and thought, you know, I'm supposed to be watching veterans to understand how to play the game, and if I did anything that he's doing right now, I'd get released.
Well, Johnny, you know my motto. You're only young once, but you can be immature forever.
Another reason for our success was the team concept style of play. There'll probably never be another pennant-winning team to use 3 different platoons.
I agree, Johnny. The salary structure and mindset of today's players makes it difficult. In '93, 6 different players shared 3 positions. Izzy and Wes Chamberlain split right field.
Inky and Milt split left.
And Dunk and Mick split second base.
When we went on that field, I mean, we were a unit, and we played together. And like I said, there was no me.
I think it's great that everybody that suits up every day feels a part of that ball club, and Milt was a big part of that ball club. I mean, Milt got some huge hits for us. Milt made some fantastic plays in the outfield. Milt was a better outfielder than I was.
It was a great mix in there, and there was no egos really involved in there.
And Jimmy and Wes in right field were fantastic. I mean, can you say enough about Jim Eisenreich? I mean, he just kind of waltzed in there about 3 days before spring training and, you know, hit .330.
I think that was the hardest thing for Wes to understand, that, you know, the role that we put him in would benefit the team more. You know, you're not going to set Eisenreich on the bench.
I remember John Vukovic coming up to me telling me that how proud he was of me and how much I had matured and how much respect he said I really gained his respect, and that had meant a lot to me.
To me, at platooning at least 2 positions is what the National League game is about. Everybody likes to have a set lineup, set players. Here you go in and you write the lineup up and down, the same lineup every day. When you have at least 2 platoons in the National League, what that does is it keeps 2 guys on your bench. It keeps them sharp. In a National League, your bench is who ends up winning the games for you.
Everybody to a man knew what their job was. And Fergosi's the one that created that atmosphere. Anytime you have a manager that walks up to you and says, you are going to do this, you can prepare for it. Kim Batiste knew what his role was. Ricky Jordan knew what his role was. And the thing that made him different, no one bitched.
Fergos was the best manager I ever played for.
He understood that you managed 25 different people. And to make those 25 different people be the best one unit they could be, you had to treat people differently.
He'd been through all the wars, and everybody respected him. And they never crossed that line, you know, and he was one of the guys, but I think that he felt that it was important to know the personalities of his players, and he was very good at that. And he wrote that lineup card out and said, hey, go get them, boys.
And while Fergosi filled out the lineup card and turned us loose, the guy that really made this team go was Darren Dalton.
No doubt. Dutch was our captain. He was our leader. And, I mean, you want to talk about a guy that you want in your foxhole.
I had a rapport with Dutch that I could call him in my office. I could tell him what I want done, and he could go out in the clubhouse. Because, let's face it, players get sick and tired of hearing it from a manager or a coach.
He was the heart and soul of our ball club. You know, Lenny was a great player, but Darren was the leader of our ball club.
He was like our quarterback, and you know, we went out there knowing that we had him back there, and he was kind of like our wall.
For my money, Darren was the manager of that team. Darren managed personalities. I've never seen anyone that could deal with a team the way Darren did.
It's all about going out and winning every day. I mean, that's the only thing that's important to him. He's the only guy I've ever seen that can go through an 0 for 15 slump. But as long as we were winning, nothing faced him.
He made me believe, whether it was true or not, that what he was doing behind the plate was the most important thing in the world to him that day. And whether he got a hit or not, well, we're working on a game, and that's what matters to me. And when you're on the mound, catchers probably won't understand how important that is to a pitcher.
I think the fact that he went through 9 knee surgeries gave him even more credibility. And the fact he might throw you around the room, you know, I mean, there was this Hollywood guy and all that, but a lot of the public didn't know that this was a real tough guy.
The surgeries he's gone through, I mean, he's as tough as they come. Everybody who's played with him knows that. He's just fortunate enough to look good, too, while he's doing it. Some of us don't have that luxury.
He's got to lead by example, and he's also has to sometimes come down on his best friends, and he would do that.
All Bubba had to do was look at you half the time, and he knew. You know.
And he looked at me, and he said, I want to kick your ass right now. And he was dead serious, and I knew he was serious. And I was embarrassed about the way I had pitched, and I said, you'd have every right to.
He got me right away when I walked in the clubhouse. He said, I didn't sleep at all last night. I was dreaming about fighting you last night. I didn't sleep a wink. I can't believe you walked. And he was right, too. I said, hey, man, you're right. Pop me, man. Go ahead. I mean, I deserve it. He cared that much where he couldn't even sleep at night. And then I knew who the leader of that team was right there.
Now, a lot's been made out of this so-called Macho Row, a group of tough guys who allegedly controlled the clubhouse. I didn't see it that way.
That was the creation of the media. What really determined the clubhouse dynamic was a group of guys who got together after the game. Dutch would have to ice his knees for at least 30 minutes, so a bunch of us would hang out with him in the trainer's room, discuss the game. It got to be a popular routine.
The trainer's room looked like a smoke-filled bar room.
Beer cups and, filled up ashtrays and spittoons and everything else. And
little by little, there were more and more guys in there.
Off the field, we talk about the games and then talk about how we were going to get better and what we had to do tomorrow to win. So it was like 24/7 trying to figure out how to win the National League.
some of the fondest memories of just going in there and being with a group of guys that have just done battle out on the field and left everything they had out on that field for that night.
They could talk about the game, where the game was fouled up, or how we won the game. And it was something that really lacks a lot of places now. It was a team.
Now, just because we were all focused on winning, it didn't mean we all had to like each other.
First of all, Mitch and I didn't get along for a day. We had polar opposite personalities.
Schill was a pain in everybody's butt.
Once in a while, somebody would get called into that room when they didn't like something.
Kurt Schilling became a problem in our clubhouse quite often, and we had to beat Kurt down a little bit.
Every now and then, Mitch would get mad because it might have been a save situation and didn't get a chance to get the save. And Dutch was great about handling that. You know, he nipped it right in the bud when it started.
Heck yeah, we'd sit in there and rip guys up, and they'd come right in, and we'd rip them up, but that kept everybody loose.
Of course, our late night sessions weren't too popular with the ladies in our lives.
That was a big part of that team, that we used to stick around, and guys gave enough about the team where they would say, "Hey, honey, I'll be an hour late tonight, okay? What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to bitch at me a little bit? I'm going to take a little heat? Well, I'm going to do that because I need to get to know my teammates and talk about the team because we care. We're here, we want to win."
And to make matters worse, I sometimes used to spend the night in the video room.
You slept on that rotten couch? You're a braver man than I. I remember the time you were told you had Sunday off and played wiffle ball with the clubhouse guys till 6 a.m.
Yeah, I pitched 89 innings and couldn't lift my left arm above the shoulder.
Then somebody got hurt and you had to play the outfield and still got 3 hits that day.
Believe it.
If you had to pick out a guy to get out of bed and get a base hit to win a ball game, it would be John Krug.
One of the only guys that I know that can take that body out there every day.
He didn't look like an athlete. He didn't act like an athlete. But he was really a great athlete.
I'm sure he'd tell you that by the looks of his body that he wasn't a great worker, but he was a great worker. He probably took more extra batting practice than anybody, and he worked at his game.
Disliked pitchers immensely. Another one. Made life just a living hell for me at times during the year. But
I still remember meeting 3 or 4 hot dogs on a Sunday game and spending the night at the ballpark.
You'd get 3 big old hot dogs on a plate and smother them with ketchup and throw it in the microwave and pull them out and go to town on them. And they were done in 2 minutes, you know. And I said, Jay, and it'd be 140, 150 out on that turf that day. And I said, Jay, how do you do it? How do you do it? And he said, years of practice.
Always made you laugh. But people forget how tough he was.
See him sitting in that lounge chair in the training room with bags of ice on his shoulders and his knees and his boiler sticking at 3 feet out from his stomach and can barely walk. And
this guy, you could hand him a 2x4 and tell him to go up there and get a hit, and he could do it.
And I would see him deliberately, with nobody out, and man on second, just pull a ground ball to the second baseman, first baseman, and move the runner. Because that's the way you're supposed to play the game, and that's what Johnny did. You know, I don't think the accolades were very important to Johnny. What was important to Johnny was winning and helping the team win. And, you know, as great a player as he probably could have been if he was more selfish, I think he took more pride in doing the right thing every day as a player.
In mid-June, we had our first and only major injury. Dave Hollins broke a bone in his hand and was expected to be out 6 weeks.
But Kim Batiste filled in and we never missed a beat.
High drive to left. It's deep. Coleman's back. Out of here. Game-tying home run, Kim Batiste.
That really illustrated the strength of our club. All 25 guys were important. Todd Pratt got the job done when Dutch needed a blow.
And Ricky Jordan picked you up when you needed it.
Which seemed like every day.
Ricky Jordan with a 3-run.
It was a true team effort. Guys like Mickey Morandini got the job done.
And a grand slam! A grand slam! Home run! Mickey Morandini!
Mariano Duncan played everywhere and led the league in smiles. Then, remarkably, Dave Hollins came back after only 2 weeks. I don't know how he did it, and I was afraid to ask.
Back then, I was so young and strong and stupid. I just went out there no matter what. As soon as I could grip the bat, I was going out there to grip it and rip it, even though the sutures were barely healed. And, you know, Coop, he can get you ready for anything. That guy's the best trainer around. And
that intensity was unmistakable, and it was impossible to get away from. He's the kind of guy that made other players uncomfortable to not play their hardest. And you had to have it. We had Dutch, and Dutch was that kind of guy, but Headley was physically that kind of guy. He would intimidate you into playing the game right if he thought you weren't.
That was David. And that's what made David, because David did not have great talent. But he had played with such a fire, and that's what made him a great player.
It's our bullpen coach right here. He's got all our equipment. There's no doctoring of the ball going down in our
Everything's good.
It's a known fact that the smartest and best athletes on any baseball team are usually found in the bullpen.
Yes, and the cultural capital of the United States is West Virginia. Hey, if this was supposed to be a team of misfits, then you guys were the kings of the misfits.
We took our game very seriously, especially our hitting.
The only reason for bullpen pitchers taking BP was strictly for entertainment value.
Well, Mitch used to take his hacks like it was life or death.
Yeah, it used to kill me just to watch. He'd get so mad and scream at the BP pitcher. Imagine Mitch complaining about a guy not throwing strikes.
It's not the ball, Mitch, it's the Indian.
There's only one Mitchie Poo.
Then we surrounded him with the likes of you and David West. Oh my God.
By mid-season, we added veterans Bobby Thigpen and Roger Mason to the pen, then strapped in for the dog days of summer.
Into deep right field. Chamberlain back. Oh, almost lost it, but makes the catch at the track. A heart-thumping 18th save for the Wild Thing.
Yeah, just another one for the Cardinals. Wow. Well, Mitch, you did it again. You stopped my f***ing heart. Damn it, Mitch. Chest, man, it's hurt.
July 2nd was a couple of days I'll never forget.
What are you talking about?
You know, the doubleheader that started on July 2nd and seemed to end a couple of days later.
They finally get the first game finished. The second game didn't start until who knows when, after midnight probably, in the early hours of the morning. And so it was a long night.
This would be a bad hour for most folks, Harry. This is the shank of the evening for you and most of us. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
The funny thing is, we really needed a win. Things were starting to slip a little in the win column, and a game like this could easily start a downward slide.
Swing, ground ball, base hit, right field. Here comes Hollins. Billy Bean's throw is late. Hollins scores the tying run.
never had this much excitement at 4 o'clock in the morning.
The bars were closing, and all these people knew this was happening, and that team was a lovable team anyway, so they were coming down, and it got louder and louder and louder the later it got. This is one of those nights that hundreds of thousands of people are going to say they were here.
Then finally, Mitch was in a position to make all that batting practice pay off.
Swing and a base hit to left center field. Incavilia's going to score. This game is over. On an RBI hit by Mitchie Poo. The Bills have won it 6-5 and 10 on the Wild Things RBI hit. Can you believe it?
1993, could something like that have happened?
Yeah, and Mitch has been talking about it every year since.
Now, the shortstop position was kind of a work in progress throughout the season.
Yeah, Juan Bell opened the season there, but was just too inconsistent. Batiste and Duncan filled in, but we needed them to come off the bench.
And so the last piece of the puzzle was added on July 7th.
I think probably the biggest key was bringing up Stocker. And I can, to this day, I can hear Larry Boa. Every single day, Larry was going, bring up Stocker, bring up Stocker, bring up Stocker.
I can still remember the video image of Boa standing next to him by the bat rack. And Stocker's picking up bats, and we looked at him and goes, don't worry about those, you win with this, you win with it. Like, real smart aleck, you know, like, I don't care what you hit. And Stock hits like 340 and plays Gold Glove defense for us.
First guy I went to was Boa, and I said, Larry, I said, they're bringing us in. And you know, in that high pitch, he said, you think he can play? You think he can play?
Fortunately for us, Stock wasn't the least bit intimidated.
Get an overall player.
You guys leave him the
At first, I went.
Stock, remember, these are the same guys ripping you at first.
Stock's first game in red pinstripes was nothing special. Mitch blows a lead, Stock bailed you out in the ninth. The game goes 20 innings. You, Westy, and Mitch get to watch the game in the comfort of the video room cafe. Mike Williams pitches 6 great innings for the win, and you knuckleheads parade around the clubhouse like you had something to do with it.
We did. If it wasn't for us messing up in the first place, it never would have happened.
Anyway, we forgot to mention how that game was won. Down by a run in the top of the 20th, up stepped a man who was having a year like no other teammate I've seen before or since.
People that are left here are just roaring, Lanny. Deep to left field, Eric Davis going back, still going back, he can't get it! It's another for Lenny Dykstra, and the Phillies are going to win this ball game! And they win it 7-6 in 20 innings! I don't believe it.
That year, there was no finer leadoff hitter that has ever played this game.
When the cameras were on, or when the pressure was on, when the game mattered the most, he wanted the bat in his hands. He wanted the ball hit to him. He wanted to play. He wanted to be the guy to have to make the play.
So fun to watch him set the tone, just his cockiness, his attitude, his swagger, whatever you want to call it. Just being Lenny, the dude.
My job was to get things going and to spark us. I mean, people, you know, don't understand, I think, how important it is to have somebody at the top of the order that can provide a spark and ignite some energy. So that was my job, and, you know, I took pride in that and taking certain pitches and not swinging at pitches.
He'd get on base, he'd take pitches. When you talk about keys for a season, we got into a lot of bullpens early because of the number of pitches that Lenny he took, and he fouled pitches off, and he got on base and did a great job.
And he set the tone right from the first inning when he stepped into that batter's box. You very seldom saw him swing at a first pitch. He worked the count.
You don't know what the pitcher's throwing that day. You don't know what kind of stuff he's got. And we would always say, dude, what's this guy got? He said, you'll know. And then he would go up there and make this guy throw 10 pitches. And that helps the rest of the ball club. And he would take till he got 2 strikes and then foul off about 5 pitches. And that's a consummate leadoff hitter right there. A guy that's going to give himself up.
And then it just sort of filtered down. The Dutch worked it. Dave Hollins worked it. You know, we had guys that weren't afraid to hit with 2 strikes. They played the game very unselfish. They moved runners when they had to. They dropped a bunt when they had to. But Dykstra was a guy that if you needed a home run, he'd do that. If you needed a stolen base, he'd do that. If you needed a walk, he would do that. And so we sort of fed off him.
We outscored everybody by 100 runs for one reason. They would take a walk. They trusted each other. They knew that they weren't forced to be the only guy in the lineup to get the hit to win the game. They trusted each other, the fact, well, I'll get a walk here and get somebody on base. And we had a lot of big innings because of walks.
Knowing dude and seeing the way that he went about it and everybody else's reaction to him, and then his reaction towards them that's a book in itself right there.
By late summer, we'd build up such a big lead on the rest of the division, it would be tough to catch us.
We were traveling the country, beating up on everybody, and acquiring quite a reputation.
You could ask a lot of bellmen around the league at the team hotels that we stayed at, and they'd tell you that, when the Phillies came to town, we never really got to our rooms till probably 5, 6 o'clock in the morning anyways. So.
The only hours of sleep that are important are the ones you get before midnight. So basically, I should be dead.
No sleep, not needed.
Even some of our opponents liked our act. Take that rookie catcher on the Dodgers.
And they had such a cool team as far as, they all had the mullets. And I grew my mullet to try to look like these guys and all scruffy and stuff. And looking at the pictures now, it doesn't look great. But, it was a time that, these guys went out and they had fun. And they loved to play, and they loved to win, and it came across. And the fact that when you played them, you knew you were in for a game that they were going to try and kick your butt.
But by September, we started to leak a little oil.
Hit, 2 runs will score, and this game is over. Montreal has won it.
Mitch had some trouble in Montreal and knew he was going to hear it when we got back to town. But you helped him out.
Hopefully the Phillies can play good against the Marlins here, and we can get that harmony back together between the fans and the players and everything.
It's a testy time of the year. You guys went through this.
Man, it's testy for everybody.
Exactly.
Anything to lighten up the atmosphere, but our once huge lead was now down to 4 games.
I can be honest with you. We had some panic in the back room a couple times in the coaching staff. And when I say panic, we weren't panicking, but we were uneasy because we weren't playing good. And the guy that never changed his demeanor through the whole thing was Fregosi. And he was a great rock through that whole thing.
Calm in the eye of the storm at all times. And don't think the players don't notice that. Players will always look to their manager on how to react. He stays calm, and they try to stay calm. Swinging a weak ground ball to second. Morandini to Crocker. Take a deep breath, everybody. The magic number is 9.
Line drive hit to right field. This game is over. Longmire scores, and the Phillies win on a bases-loaded single by Dave Hollins in the bottom half of the 12th inning. 2 men on base and 2 outs. 9th inning. Phillies lead 3-0. 57,000 plus here at the vet. Struck him out to end the ball game. Mitch Williams recording his 41st save. That's a new Phillies season record. Saves it for Tommy Green, who pitched just brilliant baseball for the Phillies, as the Phils take this one 3-0 over the Atlanta Braves. Let it go.
We finished strong down the stretch and got the magic number down to 1 by September 27th.
How about Trucker Rose? I tell you, I give this club a lot of credit. When they got together in the spring, we knew it was an improved club because we saw it. But I'd be a liar if I said I thought they'd be sitting here September 28th with the magic number 1. And maybe the sad thing about it, you might not ever see it again, at least these guys all together like this. And it's really been an outstanding year, one that they won't ever forget, and we won't either.
What we did in '93 was something that, unless you were in there and in the trenches with us, you don't realize how every night someone else would pick us up, and it was a complete team effort.
Phil's going into this game. Whitey can clinch it tonight, National League East, and looking at the face of the players in the clubhouse, it looks like they have great resolve to do that thing tonight.
Another one that's going to score 2 runs. You see those Phillies fans, a very live dugout, because before the game, you can just feel some confidence around this team, how much they want to win here.
Well hit. This ball's got a chance. It
It was the best party I've ever seen. A wild, dysfunctional family of players, coaches, staff, and executives, all tasting the fruits of a true team effort. We took it deep into the night.
We know we're going to be underdogs and just go.
Swinging a long drive, grand slam, home run by the Duck. How about that?
I even decided to sow the seeds of my broadcasting career.
This is the first time you've been in the playoffs in your career.
I haven't been there yet.
Right. This is the first time that
I haven't been there yet.
This is the first time you've clinched a divisional championship.
Okay.
Can you tell us what it feels like? What's it like with these guys, with these teammates? How does it feel to you?
You having a good hair day?
I'm having a great
You
hair day.
are having a good hair day.
Hey,
Look at that. He's having a great hair day.
What do you think about the chances of a 10-year reunion with this ball club?
No chance. Yeah, everybody's going to be dead.
I just want to know how you felt about this.
It's not. I don't like chocolate.
We got problems. Are you just basically looking to hang around here tonight for a couple guys to pass out and pick up an arm or a leg?
Well, you never know. I'm getting kind of hungry.
They make me so happy because I know that now I feel that I'm a part of the ball club.
Believe it. Don't you know it? Believe it. Believe it.
That's right. You guys were a bunch of wackos from the beginning. We carried it all the way through the season, and now we're going to carry it in the postseason. It's awesome.
It was a night I'll never forget. But one member of the team seemed somewhat subdued.
Do you feel like you showed everybody around the country that you are the dude? Believe it. He's the dude, sports fans, and don't you forget it.
Dude just sat in the corner and smiled. He knew that there was more work to do.
He knew that our great adventure had just begun. The regular season was a great blueprint for success. The platoons had worked brilliantly. We got 99 RBIs from our right fielders and 133 from left. We had 3 guys score over 100 runs and blew away the rest of the league in scoring. And that's what baseball is all about. It's not how high your batting average can climb or how many home runs you can hit. It's how many times you can cross home plate or help somebody else do it. In the end, that's the only stat that counts. And that's what the 93 Phillies were all about.
It was only the second Phillies team ever to have 5 starting pitchers with double-digit wins. And while it wasn't pretty, Mitch managed to set a club record with 43 saves.
And now it was time to see if our formula for success would work in the postseason.
It was to be the last NLCS before the wild card format. The Braves were still in the Western Division and had caught fire in the second half, erasing an 11-game deficit to beat out the Giants on the last day of the season.
The Atlanta Braves, America's team with all its Cy Young awards and pennants. Ha!
I never liked Atlanta from day one because of the way they treated us on the field. You know, you always have your certain respect or camaraderie with other teams, but they always acted like we didn't belong on the field with them.
We didn't like the Braves, and I don't think we still don't like the Braves. You know, we wanted them to stick that tomahawk chop up there, you know what.
They knew they were going to win, and but everybody in that clubhouse wearing red and white pinstripes knew that we were going to win.
We go every year, and we expect to go. We know we're going, and we're not surprised to be there.
They hated us just for who we were. We had long hair. They weren't going to see us walking up, with the exception of Dutch, in a suit. We weren't flashy. We were Philadelphia.
That's the most important thing. What an underdog needs is just somebody behind them. And we had our fans behind us. We had 60,000 people behind us, man. I mean, and they was behind us from start to finish.
The whole city was electric for Game 1.
0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The 3-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Kurt Schilling has struck out the side here in the first.
As usual, the dude set the tone.
1-2 pitch. Breaking ball. Line drive. Hit to left center field. It's going all the way back toward the fence. A stand-up double for the dude, Lenny Dykstra. Bouncing ball to second. Might be a double play. Throw to Blauser. One relay not in time. Here's Cole, third backhanded brilliantly. Stocker, low throw dug out by Truck.
Schill really had it going. Then Inky flexed his muscles.
In the air, center field, and well hit. Nixon at the wall and looking up. Home run, Canadian Gavillion.
The Braves scratched out a couple runs to tie the score. Then we gave them that old whatever it takes approach.
Bounces away, wild pitch. Scoring is Truck. Phillies lead it 3-2 on a wild pitch by Steve Avery.
We took a 3-2 lead into the ninth, and despite Schill's protest, Jimmy stuck to the game plan, bringing in Mitch for the save.
Kim Batiste was brought in for defense, and soon felt every role player's worst nightmare.
There's a double play, one hopper. Batiste threw it away. Into the game for defense. He threw it into right field.
We all felt bad for Batty, but Mitch really bared down and got us into extra innings. Then you set the stage for some great theater.
Drive to right, way back, and off the wall.
Yeah, I thought I got all of that one. But it's just as well I ended up on second. Doesn't it always seem like the baseball gods love to give a guy a shot at redemption?
Winning run at second. Kim Batiste with a chance to redeem himself.
Believe it.
Swing a hard ground ball, base hit! Base hit! Down the left field line! Truck scores! Bills win! 4-3 on the RBI hit by Kim Batiste! This place is going wild! Batiste, who made an error in the ninth inning that led to the tie, has picked up a hit down the left field line. Truck scored and the Phillies win 4-3 in 10 in game 1 of the league championship series.
It had been one of the greatest games in Vet history, and another wild chapter in the drama that was 1993. In the papers the next day, some of the Braves commented that it was Bush League for us to carry Batty off the field, that we were showing too much emotion.
And that's when I knew we had him.
What's up, man?
Before Game 2, a visitor came to the clubhouse. Dale Murphy had spent the past few years with the Phils before being traded in spring training. The longtime Brave star had some obvious split loyalty, which of course made him a huge target in our clubhouse.
Let me ask you something. Have you already been over in the Braves clubhouse? Of course he has. I have not. He went over there first. Murph went over there first. Murph, did you? Oh, who are you sitting with in Atlanta? Teddy and Jane? Hey, kid. Hey, kid. Next to Jane. Kid, I'll hit you a foul ball. Maybe the security bring it down here after the game. I'll sign it. 2 minutes. I've been doing this with Jane.
Can you see him here? Say good luck, congratulations. I get abused.
I want to
nice
see
talking to you.
And of course, the Fanatic couldn't help but make fun of that other Atlanta institution, workout queen Jane Fonda.
Here the paid attendance being announced, 62,012.
No comps here tonight. Everybody pays.
When I pay, everybody pays.
Swing and a high towering fly to deep right field. This ball way out of here. Tremendous.
In Game 2, Tommy Green ran into a buzzsaw named Fred McGriff, and the Braves were off on a romp.
But a couple of interesting things happened in that game. Let me take you back to the previous offseason. Dave Hollins and I were at a charity event in Las Vegas when we ran into Greg Maddux. Dave, or Mikey, was pretty quiet until he finally informed Maddux that after hitting him 4 times in '92, such indignities would no longer be tolerated, and if it happened again, Maddux would be dead before the catcher could come to his rescue. The Braves heard her giggled and looked at me as if to say, "He's kidding, right?" I just nodded no. Mikey had gotten into Cy Young's head.
Field way back. It is gone. Dave Hollins with a 2-run home run to put the Phillies on the board. Braves lead it 8-2.
And one other player was setting the tone for a future at bat.
3-2 pitch, swing, and a high drive to deep right. This ball is out of here. Home run, Lenny Dykstra. It's a 14-3 ball game.
Okay, the series was tied at 1, and it was off to Atlanta.
There's a lot to be said for Southern hospitality, but you won't find any of it at Fulton County Stadium.
You guys' favorite team's the Phillies, right? The Braves are going to lose. Yes, they are. Braves are going to lose. We're going to kill the Braves. We're going to kill them. We're going to kill them.
Yeah, that place can be a real house of horrors for an opponent. You know, all the chop stuff and the Braves mystique.
The only thing is, that stuff didn't faze us at all.
That's to deep left. Kruk with a home run, and the Phillies lead 2-0. There hasn't been a stolen base against this battery, but Nixon's going to try it, and he is out. Otis was right. You can't run on Terry Mulholland.
In Game 3, Terry Mulholland shut them down for 5 innings. Then the wheels came off.
A 1-2 pitch. Well hit left field. In Cavilla. Can't get him.
Okay, so we were down 2-1 to the defending champs. You think we weren't still confident?
The National League Championship Series 2-1.
Game 4 was huge. Danny Jackson took them out for what was easily the most important game of the season.
DJ had been roughed up by the Braves in NLCS the previous year with the Pirates. He never even made it out of the second inning. Now, with revenge on his mind, he was about to pitch the game of his life.
I mean, that game was ridiculous. I mean, he had an electric slider. He was, hitting the spots. Boy, what a remarkable game. And he just shut him down.
But John Smoltz was just as tough, and we knew we were in for a war.
Nice running play. Well hit, base hit.
Do it yourself, DJ.
Thompson will come around and score.
DJ gave us the performance of the year, and in the 8th, in came Mitch.
Milt's catch saved the day, and Mitch nailed it down in the 9th.
Swinging a ground ball to second, might be a double play. Morandini tags the bag. Double play. This game is over. The Phillies have won it by a score of 2-1, and even this league championship series at 2 games apiece.
Game 5 was played the next day, and the whole team was buzzing. It went today, and we were in great shape. Everybody was fired up, except for you.
I was out of bullets, Johnny.
Yeah, you quietly told me there was no way you could pitch that day.
That's how it felt.
Well, it looked like it wouldn't matter, as she'll look pretty sharp, and our defense rose to the occasion.
Drive to left, Incaviglia, great diving catch by the Eggman. Playing a line drive to right, it's a fair ball. Takes one out, bounces off the fence. Chamberlain to second, out at second.
We really weren't known for our glove work, but it seemed like everyone was coming up big.
Swing and a well-hit ball to deep right center field. This ball is out of here. Home run, Darren Dalton, and the Phillies lead it 3-0 here in the 9th inning.
Then Mitch came in to close it, and, well, they didn't call him Wild Thing for nothing.
Somehow Mitch got out of it with the score tied, and we headed for extra innings. With 1 out in the 10th, up stepped the dude.
I knew that, I needed to do something, and I mean, I didn't say I'm going to go hit a home run, but I just, as I was on the on-deck circle, I said, I got to do something special here.
3-2 pitch, swing, and a well-hit ball to deep center field. Nixon back. It's out of here. Home run, Lenny Dykstra. And the Phils have taken a 4-3 lead here in the 10th. Number 2 in this series for the dude. The only hits given up by Mark Wohler.
So I looked to see who's coming out for the bottom of the 10th, and there's the guy who told me there was no way he could pitch just a few hours before.
Well, Johnny, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and after 2 quick outs, you reached up your sleeve for one last magic trick.
Game's on the line in the 5th game of the the playoffs. Let's work on a new pitch, and he did, and oh my God.
He had been messing with his pitch for some time now, and he could control it, and Andy could hit a gnat in the butt with that slider.
He kept shaking his head out on the mound, and I said, something's going on here. He threw him a split-finger fastball, a pitch that he does not have, but he was making them up as he went along.
I figured after 20 years in the game, I might as well try to throw one once.
I gave him the wiggle, and I remember him stopping and stepping on, and he looks back in there, and I gave him the wiggle and said, come on, throw it. Just throw it. And sure enough, and he throws that thing in there, and it stunned him.
Third strike, he struck him out. Phils have won the ball game 4-3 in 10 innings. A 1-2-3 inning for Larry Anderson.
It was my first and only save of the year, and probably the biggest moment of my career.
Ain't he special? Nice goal. Atta baby.
But in the post-game clubhouse, everybody was buzzing about the dude's home run.
Remember coming around third base saying, didn't I? As he's slapping Bo's hand.
One of my all-time favorite times of the postseason is when Lenny hit that home run, and he comes walking in, and he's shaking his head, and he goes, it's nice to be strong.
And we're all like in the clubhouse going berserk, and he's out doing the post-game interview, and the place, it's just players in the clubhouse, and the door opens, and before you can even see who's coming in the clubhouse, you hear somebody scream, didn't I? Didn't I?
He's the dude, ladies and gentlemen, and you better believe it.
Game 6, back in Philly, and the fans were in a frenzy.
Greeny was back on the hill, looking for a little redemption of his own.
I was just thinking the whole time, I said I was hoping for opportunity to be able to have another chance at him, another shot just to prove to myself and my teammates that, I'll be there.
Mickey took the first shot at the Braves ace.
Up the middle, off the leg of Maddox, it caroms right to Lemke.
Leo Mazzoni, the Braves pitching coach, told me later that the ball really hurt Maddox and threw him off his game. Way to go, Mick.
Then our leader made a statement.
Line drive down the right field line, hooking, fair ball. It appeared to be right on the line. Green has scored. Dykstra is in.
In the 5th, up stepped Mikey to face his old nemesis.
It was a changeup, and not his normal changeup that fades and it just stayed up, almost like he didn't have the same plant, or I think Mickey hurt him. So he left it up, and fortunately I stayed back just long enough to get the barrel on it.
Gone to the seats. Dave Hollins with a 2-run home run. It's 4-1 Phillies.
That's probably the biggest home run I've had in my career. That's my fondest memory right there.
Then in the 7th, Mickey drove the nail in Maddox's coffin. Take it away, Whitey.
Line drive, base hit into the right field corner. Watch your breath.
talk in this series about the Phillies and their unkempt style, so they brought in Steven Gunzenhauser, the music director of the Delaware Symphony, to lend a little class and dignity to the proceedings. And what happens? They stole his baton as he was conducting the 7th inning stretch.
Only in Philly could this happen. That's why I love this town.
And this place, this joint was rocking now, and this is a very intimidating place to come and play in. And you could just feel it. I got chills running up my back right now.
Tommy Green had done a great job.
Back-to-back strikeouts in the inning for Tommy Green.
Grab some pine, prime time.
Strike 3. McGriff called down on the pitch over the outside part of the plate around the knees.
Westy blew away the Braves in the 8th. And in came Mitchie Poo to try and wrap up the pennant in front of 60,000 screaming maniacs.
3-2 pitch. Swing and a miss, struck him out. Phillies are the '93 National League champions. It's Williams, the 1-2-3 save, and this place is Battle of the Veterans Stadium. It's wacky, wonderful. Bunch of throwbacks has won the National League pennant and go on to the World Series.
And in the clubhouse, we partied. Just maybe not as hard as before, because now we could see the ultimate prize within our grasp. We were going to the big dance.
You work your whole career to achieve one goal, and that's to get into a World Series and obviously win it. But just that feeling of pride. If you go back through spring training and the whole season and you look back at everything that you've been through, and let alone your whole career, but just that season and the people that are in that clubhouse and how it all worked out. You know, you plan something, and then when it comes to fruition, there's not a better feeling for anybody in the organization, because that's your only goal. And boom, we're here. We're in the World Series.
Yeah, it was another great night. A lot of love and a lot of laughs. And one final chapter in this great story.
3 balls and 2 strikes to Bill Pacoda. Whitey, can Mitchie Poo have 1, 2, 3 innings? No way, Swing and a miss, he struck him out, and the Phillies are the '93 National League
At first, it was a little hard to comprehend. There we were, the ragged, dirtball, America's most wanted Phillies, saluting the flag and representing the United States in a foreign country.
Yeah, that's a scary thought, Andy, but I think we handled it well.
I mean, it's the way we are, you know, like the hair and the beard and everything. I mean, we had it last year, but we were so bad, no one cared. But now, you know, you win a few games and everyone wants to know about it. I mean, it's just hair.
Swing and a looper into left center, base hit, rounding third Dykstra. He'll score, and the Phillies lead it 1-0. Fastball, line drive, base hit, right field, juggled by Carter. Kruk scores, Hollins to third. Phillies lead 2-0 in the first on an RBI single by Dutch Dalton.
We jumped out to an early lead in Game 1, but Schilling got off the game plan.
It was weird. I can remember going out, and when I turned around to look at home plate, I thought, there's 1 billion people watching this game. How cool is that?
Devon Wright has tied the game 4-4 with a long home run to right field, and we're all even again.
Just didn't pitch real well. First game, I thought I needed this big game plan, and instead of listening to Vuk like I had all year, I kind of tried to do my own thing, and we ended up getting beat.
Here's a long drive. This looks like another one. Home run, John Olerud.
In Game 2, Terry Mulholland cranked up a good one.
Swing and a miss for strike 3.
With a little help from his friends.
One out. He is running. The pitch is strike. The throw, good one. And Henderson is out.
And after years of struggling against much greater obstacles and opposing pitchers, Jim Eisenreich had finally made it to the World Series.
A 3-run homer for Jim Eisenreich. And the Phillies lead 5-0.
Now, in the glare of the international spotlight, Lenny really took it to the next level.
Swing and a well-hit ball to deep right. It's got a chance. This ball's out of here. Home run, Lenny Dykstra. And the Phillies now lead it 6-3 here in the 7th. 1-1 pitch. Ground ball is short. That might be 2 to Duncan. 1, yes, double play.
Midge finished it, and we were headed back home. In Game 3, a long rain delay held up the game, and from the beginning, DJ was out of sync.
The 2-1 pitch, line drive, hit to right center. Henderson scores and skips by Eisenreich. Here comes Devon White around. He scores. Molitor to third, sliding with a triple.
And we all got to see what a hitter Paul Molitor turned out to be.
Doing line drive, left field, out of here. Home run, Paul Molitor. It got out that quick.
And Game 3 of the World Series goes to Toronto by a count of 10-3.
Game 4 was a game for the ages.
White scores.
Yeah, the dark ages. It was an old-fashioned slugfest. The Jays scored 3 in the first, and we roared back for 4.
Here's the 2-2 pitch, swing, and a well-hit ball to deep center. White back, and he can't get it. Off the boards. Allen scores. Dalton scores. Eisenreich scores. Thompson at third with a triple. And the Phillies have taken a 4-3 lead here in the first.
The two teams squared off like heavyweight boxers fighting toe-to-toe.
The drive to deep right field, fair ball out of here. Home run, Bedode. And the Phillies have taken a 6-3 lead here in the 2nd inning.
Drifting toward the pole. Home run.
For a while, it looked like the Phillies had just too much firepower.
7, a double for Milt Thompson.
Then the rains came, and the game took on the appearance of a Hollywood spectacle. And we all know who the leading man was.
He's been on base all 3 times tonight and has scored 3 times. He walked, stole second, and scored in the first, and a 2-run homer the second. Just missed a home run with a double off the wall and right in the 4th and scored again. And he hits one deep to right. Forget about it. Way out of here. What a night for Lenny Dykstra. His 2nd home run. He's driven in 4. He scored 4 times. And the Phillies lead 12-7. Awesome.
And I think about this all the time. I went up to the plate the last time we were winning we had 14 runs. I went to the plate the last time with 2 outs and the bases loaded without having to hit a home run for the cycle that game. I know I'm not a home run hitter, but the first time I kind of let it out, and if I just kept myself together, and I ended up hitting the ball up the middle that Alomar made a great play and got to force it second. And at the time, you don't think about it because we were up 14-9. But you know, at night I had a chance to think about that situation. Sometimes when you see goals or something that you think, oh man, this is incredible. Nobody's done this, and you fall out of sync and don't stay focused on what the goal is. Being up 14-9, I didn't think about how important those runs were, but later on it came back to haunt me, and I was like, oh my God.
No, you're not to blame, Milt. It was Mitch and I who couldn't hold the lead.
Down to third. Fair ball. Hollins couldn't play it. Here comes Carter around to score. Olerud to third. Molitor to second.
Give the Blue Jays credit. They just kept coming after us.
It's 14-10. Base hit. Olerud scores. Molitor's.
And run after run kept crossing the plate.
And the towel is back over the eyes of Curt Schilling. A familiar pose during this postseason.
As far as what Schill was doing with the towel and all that, that was addressed in the clubhouse, and Schill always knew where the cameras were and took advantage of it. But the thing that disheartened me about that was the reflection it threw on Mitch, you know, and here's Mitch coming in, busting his butt, you know, doing all he can to save a ball game.
The one regret I have is the whole towel incident in the postseason. I was, whether you want to call it stupid, naive, I had no idea that what I was doing was offensive.
Certain things you do, and there's certain things you don't do. And if that hadn't have been a World Series, I'd have beat 9 kinds of out of him for it.
1-1 pitch, line drive into center. Dykstra coming, can't get it. Base hit, 2 runs will score. It's now a 14-13 game.
Yeah, and our Hollywood epic had turned into Gone with the Wind.
Fly ball, right center field. Dykstra can't get it. It's all the way back to the fence. Porter scores, Henderson scores, and Toronto leads it 15-14.
Game 5, our backs to the wall, and Curt Schilling gives us the game of his life.
I really felt like I didn't have any options, and it was a good thing. When you looked at the lineup as a whole that we were facing, it could have been very intimidating. Coming off the 15-14 game, you had a city that was horribly depressed, but the team that just said, you know what, if we're going to do this, we got to do it tonight.
Double play. Alomar runs on a 3-2 pitch. It's strike 3 and a double play. Bounce to second, a double play ball if they hurry. Stocker turned it.
Got an early lead, and defensively it held up for the rest of the game. You know, coming up 8th inning, we get into a situation in which I've had 2 innings in my career I look back on and say that was everything I had. And the 8th inning of Game 5 was the first time I ever said, you know, I gave that inning everything I could possibly give it.
Off the glove of Schilling. He'll try the plate. Vignante in the rundown. Dalton. Now Hollins applies the tag. Vignante is out. Second.
Say what you want about Schill. That night, he became a big game pitcher and turned in one of the most clutch performances in the history of this stadium.
Line to center. Dykstra is there. The Phillies win. A brilliant 5-hit shutout for Curt Schilling.
Back to Canada, and nobody on this team was ready to quit.
There was a strong feeling that if we could just get it to Game 7, the series would be ours.
Every man in that clubhouse felt that, you know, had we won that night, we had a very good chance of winning Game 7 because we had Danny Jackson going for us.
I knew we were going to win that game. I knew that we were going to play Game 7. And I've since talked to some guys on their team, and they were so concerned about winning Game 6 because they did not want to face us in Game 7.
But Paul Molitor was just killing us.
Molitor to right center, well hit. Eisenreich on the run, looking up, it's off the wall. Reducing the likelihood of a Game 7 somewhat with a tremendous blast into the second deck and left.
We were down 5-1 in the 7th, but had just enough grit to fight back one more time.
Line drive, base hit. Over the glove of Fernandez. Cut off by Henderson. Stocker continues to third, and here come the Phillies. Up the middle, a base hit. Duncan waved around, and he will score. 5-5. And Incaviglia drives one to center. Deep enough to bring the go-ahead run in for Philadelphia. Collins comes to the plate to make it 6-5 Phillies. Mason has been the one bright light on the middle and long relief for Philadelphia in this World Series. He's now only given up one run in 6 2/3 innings. To center field, and Dykstra drifts back to make the catch.
Now, a lot of people rip Fregosi for taking Roger Mason out of the game. But what would you have Mason do? Pitch the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th? I don't think so.
Roger Mason, he did his job. He got us 2 innings. I think that if you look at that game, the biggest problem we had was the 8th inning.
I've heard 500 times Roger Mason should have never been taken out of that game. And if you look at what he was doing, yeah. But if Fregosi leaves him in to throw the 9th inning and Roger loses that game, Fregosi gets hung. Why would you leave him in there when you've got your closer done it all? Jimmy did exactly what he was supposed to do, and it didn't work out.
Ball 4. West walks all the room on 5 pitches.
Jimmy knew I was done, he knew Westy was done, and he knew Larry was done. But the old saying, you got to dance with what brung you, you have to.
Bases loaded. Griffin the tying run at third against Larry Anderson, who took 9.5 years in the minors to establish himself as a full-time major league player at age 30. He admitted there were many times over that stretch he thought about quitting baseball, and vowed from that day forward to enjoy every aspect of Major League Baseball. Couldn't be in a more memorable situation than this. The 1-2 to Borders is a pop-up. Mickey Morandini wants it. And he makes the catch.
I know you were running on fumes, L.A., but at least you got us to the 9th.
When Jimmy brought Mitch in for the 9th, I didn't have a question in my mind that we were going to win that game. I knew he was going to. And even when we got to the situation with, with Carter hitting and all that, I felt very confident we were going to win that game.
I was up before that. I mean, everybody's going to second guess, but that was Mitch's job. He'd been there all year doing that. Well, you're going to throw a guy in the World Series, in the 6th game in the World Series that never closed a game before?
Mitch is Mitch. Mitch's going to take the ball whether he's in a cast. He'll throw it his right hand, He ran out of bullets. Bottom line, he didn't run out of heart. He just ran out of bullets. He threw more than anybody in the game that I've ever played with or against.
I'm not sure I couldn't have kicked it home harder than I was throwing it, but you live for that situation, and they couldn't have pried that ball out of my hand with the jaws of life.
I knew he didn't have the good velocity, but still he's able to get some outs, and without him, they would not have been there, in that World Series. 2-1, he throws me a good fastball down the middle of the plate, and I take it. I say, okay, now I'm ready.
I've said it over and over again. The only thing I ever regret about that series is that I didn't throw it from a full motion. I threw it from a slide step, and needless to say, I don't have trouble getting the ball up and away. And that's where that pitch was supposed to be, and I jerked it down and into one of the few right-handed hitters you don't miss down and into. That was my only regret.
When he gave me the slide step, I was still looking slider. He threw the fastball. It had more like a hard slider, a cut action fastball on it. And all I did was react to it.
And I looked up and I looked into the lights, and then I see the ball going over the fence. And my first thought was, what am I going to do tomorrow? Because I'd already planned on coming here. And I knew that we were going to win that game. And, but we didn't.
I mean, that home run he hit, cut everybody's heart out. I mean, we had fought so hard and played so hard the whole year. I mean, if there's such a thing as giving 110%, we gave 130% that year.
I couldn't be prouder of a group of guys. They were all stand-up guys. If they fouled up a game, they would stand up and admit it. There was no excuses made. And they really gave all that they could give.
The sad part is I know in my heart we should have won that series. And that was the hardest part for me. The way we performed offensively and the pitching, the starting pitching, and basically it came down to my time in the game, and I didn't get it done. That was the hard part.
When that ball went over the fence, it was the finality of this great ride is over. But I walked in the clubhouse and gave Mitch the biggest hug, and I said, you know what? If it wasn't for you, we never would have got here.
And so it was over. We'd come as far as the baseball gods would allow.
It was a great ride. We captured the hearts of a whole city and had the best time of our lives doing it.
No one on that team has any reason to hang their head. We were winners.
And they'll probably never see the likes of us again.
People can't grasp that live around the country or have played in other cities what it's like to win in Philadelphia. The fans here, they feel it with you. They feel the wins, they feel the losses, and to celebrate on this field with those fans, because that's a big part of it. It's not just the players, it's the fans, it's the city, and that was a special thing.
I was in awe of what we had done and where we had gone and what we had experienced, and really we turned this country into Philly fans. We were America's team for about a 2-week period, and that was pretty cool.
Even though Toronto was the world champions, there was probably more focus on that club of ours. There's probably been more focus on that club losing the World Series than a lot of clubs that win it.
That team has got something to give back to baseball, I think, of the old way.
In every city I could go into, I have people that'll come up to me and say, hey, thanks for '93.
All right, we're here in the Phillies clubhouse. This is where all the action took place before the media came in, of course. This locker right here used to be Mariano Duncan's locker. Mariano had these clothes that would retro clothes from the 70s that he used to wear with all the colors and all the beautiful things that he did. But Mariano was probably the funniest guy on the team. No one knows that because of the language barrier, but he was the funniest guy. Dave Hollins' locker was right here. Sometimes Dave, most of the time Mikey. Mikey had a little, his other personality, his alter ego. And this locker, it's a wonder it's still standing because he destroyed it 2 or 3 times. And I'm sure that they had to reinforce this whole thing because he had a little temper. This locker here, Tankhead, Todd Pratt. Young guy, we let him down into our area, a little area down here, because we thought he would be fun, and he was. He was a fun guy to have around here. And again, he's like Mariano Duncan. People don't know it because he didn't get much playing time, but Tank was one of the funnier guys we had. We kept this locker empty because all the stuff that came from my locker, which is now Real Cormier's, this was my locker, and all the stuff that filtered out, the trash and everything that I never cleaned up all year because I was a slob, came into this locker. And Tank actually one day tried to get some of his stuff over into this locker, and I told him, I said, look, you're young, you're a rookie, get your crap out of my locker because he said, well, you already got a big one in this one. I said, how much I said, believe me, you'll see by the end of the year all the crap that I have that's piled up. And it took him like 2 or 3 days for the clubhouse kids to clean this thing after the season was over. This one was Lenny's. Lenny Dykstra had his locker here, and he used to have a sandbox right here where he'd spit his tobacco when he's sitting here getting dressed. And Lenny amazingly kept an immaculate locker, like really clean. He was disappointed in myself that I was such a slob because after a while, stuff would start sliding underneath, and like papers and letters and stuff would fly underneath, and he got kind of upset with that. But, you know, Lenny was okay. Didn't talk a whole lot. Very quiet guy. People don't know that about him. Right here was Inky, Pete Incaviglia. Inky was a new guy on the team, but we thought, you know, with his charm and personality, we could let him down here. And plus, he was a little psycho, so it was good to have another guy down here that can keep, you know, as long as we kept the pitchers out. That's what was the main thing. You know, Larry Anderson, David West, they were all up there where they belong, the pitchers at the other end. The only one pitcher that we allowed down here, but he wasn't really a pitcher. You guys have seen him pitch. He just threw the ball hard and actually did not know where it was going. Mitch Williams' locker was right here. This is where Mitch whined and complained about saves and blown saves, and, you know, I walked too many guys. You know, he's not telling us anything we don't know because we had to be out there and watch that crap. This locker right here, I'll never say anything bad about this man, Darren Dalton, our leader, our fearless leader, the guy who willed us to win in 1993. This was his locker. I don't know how me and him got the two big lockers. I can understand him. Why I got one, I have no idea. But like I said, this was called Macho Row. We don't know who started that name, but it wasn't us because we didn't see ourselves as macho. And actually, the lockers were great. Everything was great, but the real action took place in the training room, after the games, away from the media, because media is not allowed in there. This is the place where it all took place for the Phillies right here. This is where games were won and lost in the training room. Now, you guys aren't allowed in here, but no one's here, so come on in. Let's go. See, now these weights and everything, this is the modern player. These weren't here when I was here because we didn't lift weights. We lifted pitchers of beer. I can tell you where everyone sat. It was like a ritual every night. There was a training table right there. Darren Dalton sat there. All he had on was his sliding shorts, no shirt because, you know, he had that great body and everyone was jealous. This was my seat right here. And actually, when I would walk in after the game, there'd be 2 pitchers of beer here, a pack of cigarettes, and an ashtray right here. Of course, with the health of the players now, none of them do that stuff. Mitch always came in here and sat and told us how great he pitched, so we knew that was a lie. There was a lot of lying in this room, too. Inky would sit here on this table, and Dave Hollins would sit on the end. Lenny would sit back here in the corner with about 50 towels bunched up around him and eating watermelon and spitting the seeds all over the floor, but he would use the towels there to spit his tobacco juice in. And it was disgusting. He was a disgusting guy. Yeah, I said he kept his locker clean. He was a pigsty, though, but I ain't going to lie. But this is where we all sat, and we stayed here till, you know, 2, 3, 4 in the morning talking baseball. This is the play. This is the burial ground. This is where every pitcher, every player, and no one was immune to it. Dalton, Dykstra, myself, if we played bad or made bad mistakes, mental mistakes, we all got buried in this room, and it was the greatest. This is the greatest place. This is where our team came together. And this is where we actually won games, won and lost games in here to take it out there for the next day. Look at these guys are healthy now. This stuff is, I tell you what, I used to, Inky, Dalton, and Hollins and Dykstra used to come back here after games like every other home game, and they would come in here and lift weights, and, you know, and I would sit here with a beer and an ashtray, and can't understand why they were grunting and sweating and like trying to build their bodies up when we just had to play again the next day. I thought, you know, rest would be better, but this room is the greatest room ever as far as the Phillies are concerned. It was a pigsty. There was pizza everywhere. I mean, pizza from like three homestands prior. Pizza boxes still laying around. Video Dan Stevenson, he couldn't keep control. He couldn't clean it because these guys were such slobs. But, you know, we figured we had one good year. We had one run. We knew it was only going to be a one-year run, so we might as well enjoy it while we could, and we did. So we made the most of it.
Or tell the people back here just exactly what you think of me, what a great guy I am. Could you expound on that a little bit?
You're an old fart. You know, you just happen to be hanging around, and we let you get in the middle of this, but you're an old fart. You probably got another year or 2 in you.
Could you tell me what do you really think of me?
I usually don't, Larry. I don't usually think of you at all to speak of, and actually I think you're an asshole.
I mean, you really helped my self-esteem, and there's been times when I just thought it wasn't worth it, but I called on you, Larry, and I tell you, you helped me out.
Well, that's all you have to say about me?
That's all.
Having a good hair night?
Great hair night, man.
Yeah. All right.
Because the team led the whole run scoring bit last year. And, you know, if we give them a chance to win the ball game, they can do it. And that's what it come down to.
And didn't we?
Believe it.
Thank you. You're not going to be able to fit the mask around your head tomorrow after this celebration tonight. Do you think that's going to be a problem?
No problem at all, you know. I'll probably see 3 baseballs tomorrow, but I'll just swing at the middle one. I hope I do the job.
Haven't you done it all year?
Believe it.
Believe it. Hey.
Jerome is in the house. Jerome in the
Hello, I'm Kevin Stalker, and I'm here with Kurt Schilling, people, ladies and gentlemen. And a quick interview with Kurt, you know.
Winding up on the camera.
First interview of the night, ain't it, Kurt?
Kurt, tell us about how you feel right now. What's going through your mind?
I'm
That's
really
great. Okay, well now what was going through your mind after we won?
Well, I felt pretty good.
That's great. And then when you got your new award, how'd that feel?
It felt really good.
Okay, and with Kurt Schilling, ladies and gentlemen.
Isn't it special?
Ain't it?
That's right.
I'd kill him, but we need him for 7 more days.
And I'd like to thank the fans also for the recognition. That was nice to be voted in.
It's amazing the fans want to see me play. It's a scary thought of the whole thing, what our society's come to these days, but you know, they want to see it, so I guess we have no choice but to go.
Jake and Dutch, John Kruk, and Darren Dalton, friends, teammates, lovers.
All right. Okay. Now, essentially what we're trying to correlate here is John Kruk, first baseman, Philadelphia Phillies, and the fall of civilization as we know it. Brian Harvey, here's a question. John Kruk, I mean, if you look at the man, forget the hair, forget the goatee.
He may not look too good, but he sure can hit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got my theory for pitching is no gut, no gas. So, you know, maybe it's in the hair. Maybe he's Samson. Who knows?
Because I've been after him for 2 years to get a haircut. He hadn't done it. At least he trimmed his beard that so-called beard that he had.
John Kruk is a great guy. He's a really wonderful guy, and he can play baseball too. Although people look at him, they say, wow, is he a baseball player? He really can play.
John Kruk's hitting 350, man. I don't care. It don't matter what you look like. That boy can hit.
Right up. I want to walk with you. I want to look real thin.
We're still going to be real short.
I don't know, man. He thinks that he shouldn't be playing here, man. I told him, man. There's nothing about that, man. It doesn't matter how you look. And
John Kruk is a role model.
I think he's a good role model.
I mean, if you think Charles Manson's a role model, and I guess John Kruk would be too.
Let's see, you can look at Steve Garvey, clean cut, or John Kruk. So which one would you pick?
Ryan Sandberg, good milk drinker.
I don't know. Don't ask me anything about somebody I really don't know.
Cal Ripken, good milk drinker.
Oh, I don't know about Kruk, man. I don't know. He's strange. I'm still trying to figure him out.
Well, it just shows you that anything can happen in America.
He's every couch potato's ultimate dream.
Society is really coming to a standstill now when something like this can happen.
Well, as John paraphrased, I'll paraphrase John. He said they voted Bill Clinton in, and he's still in. I mean, after all, this is America.
There were a lot of people who said we could never change the way things were in Washington. Same sort of people who picked the Phillies to finish last this year.
I'm just wondering if people that voted for John Kruk will admit it, unlike the people that voted for Bill Clinton.
By the way, I think the Phillies are looking pretty good. Even that big fella Kruk, you know, the big bat. Wonder who cuts his hair.
Your baseball needs John Kruk.
Why so?
Oh, I don't know. He just looks like he's had a little more fun than some of the other people.
6'10.5", almost 6'11". That's the largest man in the history of baseball on the mound against you, John Kruk.
I'm not facing him. I'll quit.
You don't like to face him?
I don't know. I just seen him on TV, and I don't want no part of that.
John Kruk fanning himself off. Johnson has had pitches clocked at as much as 102 miles per hour in Major League play.
Would you say his heart is palpitating a bit? Look at the next step. I don't blame John one bit for going toward first. And you can see him smiling. The first one's over his head, and then look at this. Looked like a rope was on his right leg.
And he bailed out again at the breaking ball.
He wants no part of Randy Johnson. None. Nada. You knew that was coming. John had no chance.
You keep talking about how much you like this team and you like this bunch of guys. Why is this team so attractive to you?
Kind of like family. You know, they're all a bunch of sick.
I wouldn't say it's an insane asylum. I mean, that's embarrassing. We're not insane.
We're all just normal guys, just out of our minds.
This team is, it's eerie. It's out of this world. It is.
No, not really. We got a bunch of different personalities here.
Oh, without a doubt, the craziest clubhouse I've ever been in.
There's like 15 of us that have split personalities.
I think if you took all the B horror flicks ever made and all the killers and mass murders and all of them, they're probably living in our clubhouse somewhere.
Because I think the general manager of this club has done a fine job in assembling a prison squad.
You know, we got a good mix. We got a bunch of idiots and Murph and...
John Kruk said it best. He said, you know, Mormons have to go on their missions, and some go to Africa and some go to Australia, and Murphy came to the Phillies clubhouse, so...
Nothing we do in the clubhouse should ever be tried at home.
Well, I figured the crazier the team, the more games we're going to win this year.
I think overall the team gets along real well.
You're a dead man.
I've never seen so many guys so excited every day to get up and come to the clubhouse. You know, you never know what's going to happen. It's like a zoo.
Look at all these. You know what I want to say? I am not an animal.
It's like romper room. You know, I mean, you never know what you're going to see or what's going to happen or who's going to do what. Or
There you go again. You're calling us psycho. We're not psycho.
How do you feel about this year's club?
it's unbelievable. I told Jimmy I died and went to heaven.
We're going to have a great year. I can see it coming.
We got a chance to have a real good staff. You know, we can send 5 starters out there, and you know, Tommy Green.
We got a bunch of idiots sometimes, you know. Myself being the #1 pun, you know.
When Tommy comes in, hey, here's Tommy. All right, he's gone.
All right.
Okay.
A couple here call me Jethro.
Hey, you got to go like this. You got to give it the open-eyed check. All right. Okay. All right, he's gone.
Schilling has got to have the world's worst body.
Oh, scary. I don't know. I've always said that I have a terrible body, which I do. It's not a body. This is a cruel family joke.
Look at Greenie. There's a survivor. The gene pool.
Dude.
Terry.
Well, Terry's a specimen, but
second world's worst athlete, next to Schilling.
How could Terry Mulholland even say something about us when every time he opens his mouth he puts the whole room to sleep?
Sounds like that guy from the
He's got that deep bass voice there, and it just lulls you to sleep.
He's ready, he's primed, he's lubed, his hair's lubed, he's ready, he's going. He's everything, folks. He's Danny Jackson.
If you want a nickname, we call him Jason. He's got 2 sides to him. You know, if you see him out there and he looks like an all-American boy and really looks like he's got his stuff together, you've got the wrong idea, because this guy's a real sick puppy and fits in actually well on this team. Makes some of the other sick guys on this team look well.
Call Ben Shaq. Shaq, because he looks like Shaquille O'Neal.
The big, tall right-hander, 6'5", from my hometown.
The Shaq Attack.
Shaq Attack.
Shaq Attack.
Shaq 2.
Nasty Curve.
Cy Youngman?
Yeah.
when I'm thinking about a Terry Mulholland, a Kurt Schilling, a Ben Rivera, the way he pitched, and with the addition of Danny Jackson, you know, I'll tell you, we got a chance to have a real good staff. You know.
People ask me about him all the time. What was Lenny Dykstra like? I say, you know what? In the locker room, he was very quiet. And they look at me like, no, he's running around yelling and screaming. I said, no. I said, he basically came in, sat in his locker, and spit Dr. Pepper on his shoes to clean them, and didn't say a whole lot. Like, he would come up and start to tell you a story, then he'd leave and go in the training room, and then an hour later come back, and you say, hey, Lenny, finish that story. And he's like, well, what are you talking about, dude? What was I talking about? I'm like, okay.
The dude was an experience. You know, the dude would be an experience even if it had nothing to do with baseball. I mean, you could run into Lenny, I'm sure, away from the field and come away a little bit dazed and confused as to just what exactly just happened. But you know, Lenny, I think, was if there's such a definition as a creature of habit or a guy that's superstitious or has his routine or needs to do things, you know, consistently as far as preparation goes, it was Lenny. I mean, you know, I think Franklin that year sent him like over 500 pairs of batting gloves because, you know, if he made an out or he didn't like the way they felt, they were in the trash.
I used to pick all these new gloves out of the can for my son Vince, who was young at that time, and take them home. I mean, they didn't even have any pine tar on them yet.
But Lenny was very superstitious. Nobody could touch his bat if he was hitting good. I remember a pitcher picked it up one time during BP, and he looked over there and he said, whose bat's that? And he said, it's yours. He says, give me that thing. And he went nuts, you know. It was like, this is sacred. Don't touch this while I'm going good. If I'm 0 for 4, you can use all my bats. When I get 2 or 3 hits, I don't want you to touch anything. But he would wear the same undershirt if he was hitting good. Obviously, if he wasn't, he'd be changing, but very superstitious.
Well, you know, in this game of baseball, man, it's a great game, but it can also humble you quick. I mean, and you get to the point where you can't stop it. You know, something you don't get a hit, you think it's because you had your chew or your batting gloves on a different way, or you wore the wrong undershirt, and so you know, especially when you're winning, you know, you combine trying to be successful not only as an individual, but then you know when your team's winning, you combine. So I had dual superstition angles going.
It was an amusement park. It was hands down the funnest baseball environment I've ever been around because there were no boundaries as to what you could say, what you could do. You get 25 guys with over 75% incredibly immature together, you know, for 180 days, and there's stuff has to happen.
That cast of characters, you know, they were just so much fun to be around. And I'll never forget when Joe Carter beat us in Game 6. We fly back to Philadelphia. Now they're like, that team really captured the imagination of the Phillies fans and the public. There were like several thousand fans to greet us even after we had lost the World Series. And I'm walking off the plane behind Larry Anderson. And LA's doing like this. I said, LA, what are you doing? We didn't, what's the V for victory? We didn't win. He said, no, that means we're number 2.